If you're the kind of person who says yes and regrets it later, this is for you. If you don't fix this, other people's plans will keep affecting your week. Today I'll give you one rule and one line to stop overcommitting your time. We'll use it in a real Friday night moment where you'd normally give your whole evening away. If that sounds like something you need, stay with me. You're in the middle of a workday, staring at your calendar, and it looks like a game of Tetris you're losing. A coworker just DMs you asking if you can take a quick look at their deck before tomorrow. Your cousin is texting about needing help with a move this weekend. Your manager dropped a last-minute meeting in your afternoon. You feel that familiar mix of tension in your chest and the automatic thought, I'll make it work, even though you already know there's no room left. Ever notice how often your mouth says yes while your body quietly says no? You keep telling yourself you just need better time management, a new planner, a better app. But the real leak isn't your tools. It's the way you keep lending out your future hours to other people's urgency. You feel guilty if you don't help. You worry people will think you're selfish, lazy, or unreliable if you turn them down. So you overload your days with favors, quick calls that aren't quick, small responsibilities that were never yours, and weekend plans you agreed to when you were too tired to think. Then the bill comes due. You rush through your own work. You say yes to things for your family or partner and then show up late, distracted, or annoyed because you've already given too much. You snap at people you love because you're stretched thin. You lie awake at night mentally rewriting your schedule, trying to figure out how to be everywhere for everyone. You promise yourself that next week you'll finally protect your time, but when the requests come again, the same old yes slips out of your mouth. If nothing changes, the cost isn't just your sleep or your free time. It's the slow feeling that your life doesn't belong to you anymore, that you're living on a schedule written by everyone except you. On top of that, every extra commitment quietly raises the pressure on everything else. When you say yes to a coworker's project you don't have space for, that pressure bleeds into your own deadlines. When you agree to help a friend all Saturday, it squeezes out the one chance you had to rest, clean your space, or just sit still with your own thoughts. Over time, you start to feel constantly behind, even on days when you technically got a lot done. Your nervous system never really powers down, because there's always one more promise you made that you haven't honored yet. That constant low-level stress becomes the background music of your life. Today, we're going to start taking your time back. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a simple rule you can use anytime someone asks for your time or energy. You'll know how to decline without being rude, how to pause instead of auto-agreeing, and how to protect a few non-negotiable blocks of time each week for what actually matters to you. You'll learn how to buy your future self back a few hours of breathing room instead of selling them off for immediate comfort. You'll be able to say yes on purpose instead of yes by habit. Educational content inspired by classical Stoic texts. Not medical, psychological, financial, or legal advice. If you want steady Stoic focus lessons on emotional control, boundaries, and relationships every week, this is the channel for you. Stay with me until the very end, and while you're here, hit like, tap subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. The Stoics were ruthless about protecting their attention. As Marcus Aurelius reminds himself in Meditations, other people will keep trying to pull you into their priorities, but you're responsible for deciding what your mind and your hours are for. Most of your overwhelm doesn't come from the work that's truly yours. It comes from the extra burden you pick up because you don't pause long enough to ask, does this request deserve a chunk of my life? That pause, even 3 seconds, and can be the difference between a week that drains you and a week that quietly supports you. And the more you practice it, the more you start to feel like the person steering your days, instead of a passenger running from obligation to obligation. So here's how we're going to move through this. First, we're going to challenge the belief that always saying yes makes you a good, kind, or dependable person. Next, we'll dig into the guilt and fear that push you into overcommitting, and how to stop letting those feelings make decisions for you. Then, you'll learn a clear one-line rule that helps you decide in the moment whether a request deserves a yes, a no, or a not right now. After that, we'll practice a few simple sentences you can use to decline without drama, without over-explaining, and without apologizing for existing. Finally, we'll put it all together in a real-life evening scene where you can feel how different your week becomes when your yes actually means yes and your no actually means no. In a little while, we're going to walk through a Friday night situation where someone you care about asks you for just one more favor at the end of a week that already flattened you. You'll see the exact second where your old reflex to overcommit kicks in, and the new pause, the new question, and the new sentence that keep you from giving away the last few hours of rest you desperately need. You need one shift right now that will change the way you handle almost every request that shows up on your phone or in your inbox. Stop giving instant yes. The pressure you feel in those first few seconds after someone asks for your time is the exact pressure that keeps stealing your week away from you. If you don't change this single habit, you'll keep committing to things you don't have the space or desire to do, and your schedule will always feel tight, crowded, and slightly out of control. The stakes are real. If you keep answering immediately, you'll keep locking yourself into obligations that drain you before you ever get the chance to think about what you actually want. What makes this pause so powerful is that it interrupts the emotional spike that drives most of your yes. You're not truly choosing, you're dodging discomfort. You're trying to avoid disappointing someone, prevent awkwardness, or escape the fear of what they'll think if you hesitate. That quick jolt of guilt tricks your brain into believing that saying yes is the fastest path to relief. But the relief is temporary, and the cost is enormous. When you add just 10 seconds of space, you shift out of emotional reflex and into deliberate choice. The pause gives your body time to settle and your mind time to ask the only question that matters: do I have the capacity for this? This is how a calmer, more focused version of you responds instead of reacting. You stop handing out your hours like candy and start treating your time as something that belongs to you. The line you can use in that pause is simple and natural: let me check what I already have on my plate, and I'll get back to you. If you want an even shorter version, you can say, I'll take a look at my schedule and let you know. These sentences create space without tension. They signal thoughtfulness, not rejection. They buy you breathing room so you can respond from clarity instead of guilt. Picture yourself at work on a Wednesday morning. A teammate pings you on Slack with, "Hey, could you help review my proposal before the end of day? I'm swamped." Your old reaction kicks in immediately. You feel the pressure behind your eyes. You think about how busy you already are, but your fingers start typing yes anyway because you don't want them to think you're unhelpful. You hit send, and a few seconds later you feel the dread settle in because now you have one more thing crammed into an already overloaded afternoon. That's the old pattern, saying yes to escape discomfort and then suffering for hours afterward. But now imagine the new version. You pause and feel the impulse to rush into a yes, but you don't move. Instead, you type the microscript, "Let me check what I already have on my plate, and I'll get back to you." You don't apologize. You don't overexplain. You don't give a long story about being behind. You simply give yourself room. You look at your schedule and realize you can't reasonably take it on without compromising your own work. A few minutes later, you reply, "I'm at capacity today, but I hope you get everything wrapped up." The conversation is smooth, respectful, and grounded. The world doesn't collapse. No one accuses you of being selfish. You simply protected your day. Your tiny action for today is clear. Before you respond to any new request, work, friend, family, anything, pause for 10 seconds before typing. You don't need a stopwatch. Just count slowly in your mind. Give yourself that thin slice of space. Even if you end up saying yes, it will be a yes you actually chose, not one that was pulled out of you by anxiety. Right now, take a slow breath in through your nose and hold it for a moment. Let your shoulders drop as you breathe out. Do it again, but slower this time. Feel how your body softens when you create just a little space between stimulus and response. Say the microscript in your mind once, gently, "Let me check what I already have on my plate, and I'll get back to you." Say it again, a little slower, letting your voice, out loud or in your mind, sound like someone who doesn't rush their life anymore. This is what the pause feels like. It's quiet, steady, and confident. The more you practice this small moment, the easier it becomes to use it in the heat of real interactions. Hold on to this line because soon we're going to stress test it in a situation where someone pushes for an immediate answer, and you'll see how the pause protects you from slipping right back into the old reflex. There's another pattern you need to break if you want to stop overcommitting. You have to stop treating guilt as a command. That heavy feeling you get in your chest when someone asks for help isn't a signal that you owe them your time. It's just an emotion, not an obligation. If you keep letting guilt make decisions for you, you'll keep saying yes to things that drain you, frustrate you, and leave you resentful later. The stakes are real because every guilt-driven yes is a no to something else: your rest, your relationships, your focus, your health. You can't build a grounded life while letting guilt steer the wheel. Here's why guilt feels so powerful: it's fast. It hits you before logic does. When someone sends you a request, your mind instantly jumps to the stories you've learned over the years. I don't want to disappoint them. They'll think I'm selfish. Good people help. If I say no, I'll seem unreliable. These stories aren't true. They're old emotional reflexes built from past moments where you felt pressure to please or pressure to avoid conflict. When guilt shows up, your brain wants immediate relief, and the quickest way to get relief is to say yes. But that yes only soothes you for a few seconds. After that, it becomes weight. Then it becomes frustrating. Eventually, it becomes resentment. And resentment slowly eats away at your relationships. Guilt-driven yes feel noble in the moment, but they sabotage you afterward. When you learn to slow down guilt, you learn to see it as just a feeling. Not a verdict. Not a demand. Not a moral scorecard. Just an emotion moving through your body. And when you recognize that, the discomfort loses its power. You stop treating guilt like proof that you owe someone something. You stop assuming that discomfort must be eliminated immediately. You start becoming the kind of person who responds intentionally rather than acting out of emotional pressure. You gain the ability to choose the yes that honors you and the no that protects you. The microscript for guilt moments is this: I care about you, but I can't take this on right now. If you need something shorter, use I wish I could help, but I'm not able to. These lines acknowledge connection without sacrificing your boundaries. They're honest, calm, kind, and firm. They let the other person know you're not rejecting them, you're protecting your limits. They slow guilt down just enough for your clarity to catch up. Imagine this scene. It's Sunday afternoon in a neighborhood in Seattle or Denver or Toronto. You're finally catching up on laundry, half watching something on Netflix, drinking coffee, letting your brain rest after a long week. Your friend texts, "Hey, can you help me meal prep for the week? I'm behind and overwhelmed." You feel the punch of guilt immediately. You start thinking, they'd help me if I asked. I don't want them to think I only care when it's convenient. You feel that tightening in your chest and your fingers hover over the keyboard. You type, "Sure, what time," even though you want nothing more than to stay home and breathe. That's the old reaction. Guilt dictates your schedule, your energy, your entire day. Now picture the new response. The guilt still appears, you feel it, that same tightening, but instead of reacting, you sit with it for a moment. You let it move through your body. You breathe once, slow and steady. And then you type the microscript, "I care about you, but I can't take this on right now." Your friend replies a few minutes later with, "No worries at all, I'll figure something out." The world doesn't fall apart. They don't accuse you of being selfish. You didn't betray anyone. You simply honored your capacity. You didn't punish yourself just to look helpful. And as the afternoon continues, you feel something new, relief without resentment. The guilt didn't control you this time. Your tiny action for today is simple but powerful. Notice the first physical signal of guilt in your body. Maybe it's a tight chest, a sinking feeling in your stomach, or your breath catching a little. Identify it. Name it. Say to yourself, "This is guilt. It's allowed to be here, but I don't get to choose for myself." That little sentence breaks the illusion that guilt is a command. It becomes just a feeling instead of a rule you have to obey. Right now, slow everything down for a moment. Take one long breath in through your nose, hold it gently, then let it go. Let your shoulders soften. Say the microscript quietly to yourself, I care about you, but I can't take this on right now. Repeat it again, slower, letting your voice sound calm, steady, and rooted. Feel how your chest loosens when the sentence becomes familiar. Let your body experience what a guilt-free boundary feels like, not cold, not harsh, not defensive. Just clear. Just honest. Just steady. You're going to need this line later because when someone close to you asks for help in a moment where you're already stretched too thin, guilt will flare up hard. But that's exactly where this new skill makes the biggest difference. Soon we'll put you into a situation where the guilt feels louder than your own needs, and you'll see how this sentence helps you hold your ground without damaging the relationship. You need a rule that keeps your week from getting hijacked by other people's urgency, and it starts with this: stop treating every request as if it deserves an answer right away. When you respond the moment something comes in, you're letting other people's timing shape your entire day. You lose control of your attention, your focus breaks, and you end up rearranging your schedule to solve problems that aren't actually yours. If you don't change this, you'll keep giving away your concentration in small pieces, and the cost will show up everywhere: unfinished tasks, late nights, irritated moods, and the feeling that your life is always one step behind. The reason this rule works is simple. Most requests that feel urgent are only urgent to the person making them. They come loaded with emotion, pressure, and sometimes panic, but none of that means you are the right person or the right solution. When you delay your replies, you shift the power dynamic. You stop allowing urgency to infect your nervous system. You give your brain room to stay focused on what you were already doing instead of treating every notification like a fire alarm. Urgency is contagious, but so is calm. When you refuse to be pulled into someone else's rush, you protect the structure of your day. You reclaim your mental clarity, and you start to build the identity of someone who responds strategically, not reactively. You show up with intention instead of adrenaline. The sentence that enforces this rule is simple: I'll look at this when I'm free later today. If you need something shorter, use I'll circle back when I'm available. These lines are clear, neutral, and boundary-friendly. They acknowledge the message without promising instant action. They reset expectations without confrontation. And they anchor you back in control of your own time. Imagine a typical morning in Chicago or Vancouver. You're at your desk, coffee half finished, finally settling into a project you've been putting off. You're 15 minutes in, just enough to feel your mind warming up, when your phone buzzes. A coworker emails, "Hey, can you take a look at this ASAP? I need your feedback before I send it." You feel the spike immediately. Your shoulders tense. Your eyes jump to the notification. You think, if I don't respond now, they'll think I'm ignoring them. You abandon your project, open the attachment, and start working on something that wasn't even part of your plan for the morning. That's the old pattern, allowing someone else's rush to become your responsibility. Now picture what happens with the new rule. You see the notification but don't open it. You stay with your breathing for a moment. You type the microscript, "I'll look at this when I'm free later today." Not rude. Not dismissive. Just factual. You don't apologize. You don't overexplain. You don't reassure them with promises you can't keep. They reply, "Thanks," and move on. You continue your project, uninterrupted. An hour later, you're deeper into your own work than you've been all week. You didn't let urgency hijack your focus. You protect your rhythm, and your body feels different for it. You feel more grounded, less scattered, more in control. Your tiny action today is measurable. Set 2 windows in your day when you check non-urgent messages. One in the late morning and one in the late afternoon. Everything else can wait until those windows. You are not required to be on call for anyone who happens to need something. You get to create the structure in which you operate. And the moment you start treating your attention as something valuable, other people will adjust. Take a slow breath with me now. In, hold, and let it out. Let your face soften a little. Feel your body settle. Say the microscript once, "I'll look at this when I'm free later today." Let the sentence land gently. Now again, slower, I'll circle back when I'm available. Notice how calm it feels when you say it without rushing. This is the energy you carry into the moments where you're tempted to drop everything and respond. This is the pause that keeps your day intact. If you can internalize this sentence, you'll use it in the moment we get to later where someone pushes for immediate attention. And that moment is where you'll see how powerful this new habit becomes when someone insists that their urgency must become yours. But you won't fold the way you used to. You'll have the pause, the sentence, and the clarity to protect your time. You need one more boundary if you want your schedule to stop collapsing under other people's expectations. Stop explaining your no. Overexplaining is the fastest way to drain your confidence and reopen the door you just tried to close. When you say no and then pile on a long justification, you invite debate, negotiation, and pressure. You give the other person room to poke holes in your reasons and push you into agreeing anyway. If you don't change this habit, your boundaries will always feel fragile, and people will keep learning that all they have to do is push a little for you to fold. There's a simple reason overexplaining feels so automatic. You're not just trying to decline the request, you're trying to manage the other person's emotional reaction. You want them to think well of you, to not feel disappointed, to avoid the tiny sting of awkwardness that comes with giving someone a limit. Your brain believes that the more reasons you offer, the safer the interaction will feel. But the opposite is true. Overexplaining triggers more tension, not less. It signals uncertainty. It tells the other person you feel guilty, which makes them feel like it's okay to push. When you give a long story, I'm so busy, I'm exhausted, I already have so much going on, maybe next week, you accidentally shift the conversation from your boundary to your excuses. And excuses can be argued with. But a clean, simple no? That stands on its own. When you stop explaining, you step into a different identity. You begin to operate like someone whose time is valuable, someone who doesn't need to justify their limits to earn respect. You become steadier, clearer, and more grounded. You stop performing for approval and start acting from self-respect. And the more you practice this, the more confident you feel in the rest of your life. Because every boundary you hold without an explanation makes it easier to hold the next one. The microscript for this shift is beautifully simple. I'm not available for that. If you want a slightly more personable version, use, I can't do that, but I hope it goes well. Both are respectful. Both are clear. Both close the door gently but firmly. And most importantly, neither invites negotiation. They don't provide hooks for someone to grab onto. They don't give the other person something to argue with. They're clean exits. Picture a moment in a suburban neighborhood in Minneapolis or Ottawa. It's a Thursday evening, and you've finally settled into a quiet routine after a chaotic week. You're making dinner, your phone is charging, and you're looking forward to not thinking about anyone else's schedule for a few hours. Then a friend texts, "Hey, we're going out tonight. Can you come?" It would mean a lot. You feel that rush of pressure. You start typing a paragraph explaining how tired you are, how much you have to do tomorrow, how you've been feeling burned out. You hope that the longer your explanation, the easier they'll take it. But the moment you hit send, they reply, "Come on, just for an hour." You always say you're tired. We'll keep it low-key. Now you feel cornered. You feel guilty. And there's a good chance you cave. Now imagine the new version. You see the message. You feel the pressure spike. Instead of a paragraph, you take a breath and type, "I'm not available for that, but I hope you have a great night." Nothing to argue with. Nothing to negotiate. Just clarity. Your friend replies a few minutes later with a thumbs up emoji and moves on. No tension. No guilt spiral. And you spend the evening exactly the way you wanted, resting, restoring, and taking care of yourself. You didn't have to confess your exhaustion. You didn't have to justify your choice. You simply honored it. Your tiny action for today is this: pick one upcoming situation, work or personal, where you know you'll be tempted to explain your no. Write down the clean sentence you'll use instead. Just one line. Let it sit somewhere visible for the rest of the day. When the moment arrives, use only that line. No extras. No softening. No storytelling. Just clarity. Take a slow breath in with me right now. Hold it gently for a moment, then let it go. Let your chest loosen as your exhale drops your shoulders a little. Now say the microscript once, out loud if you can. I'm not available for that. Feel how simple and steady it is. Say it again, slower. I'm not available for that. Notice the stillness in your body when you don't chase approval with explanations. This is what clean boundaries feel like, quiet confidence, not anger. You're not shutting people out. You're protecting the structure of your own life. You're going to need this sentence soon, because the moment we'll get to later involves someone who's used to you giving long explanations. They'll push for one. They'll expect it. And you'll feel the old reflex to justify yourself start to rise. But that's exactly where this new skill gives you strength. The clean no becomes the anchor that keeps you from getting pulled back into the old pattern. You need another shift if you're going to stop overcommitting your time. Define a limit before the request shows up, not after. When you try to make boundary decisions in the heat of the moment, you're fighting an emotional uphill battle. The pressure, the social expectation, the guilt, the fear of disappointing someone, all of it hits you at once. If you wait until that moment to decide whether something fits into your life, you're far more likely to say yes even when you don't want to. And the price of living this way is predictable. You end up with a week full of obligations you didn't choose. Your commitments become reactive instead of intentional, and your future self keeps paying the cost. The reason predefined limits work so well is that they shift the decision into a calmer part of your mind. When you choose your boundaries ahead of time, how many social events you'll attend this week, how many extra projects you'll take on, how many favors you're willing to do, you remove the emotional spike from the equation. You're no longer deciding under pressure. You're simply following a rule you created when you were clear-headed. Humans are terrible at making good decisions when they feel put on the spot. But when you build a policy for yourself, a simple rule, you take the friction out of the moment. You're no longer wrestling with guilt or fear. You're following your own structure. That structure is what makes you steadier, more grounded, and more consistent. It lets you show up to your real priorities instead of scattering your time across everything that asks for it. The microscript for enforcing a predefined limit is this: I've already hit my limit for this week. Another version you can use is, I'm at capacity right now. These sentences are powerful because they shift the conversation away from whether the request is good or bad and toward the reality of your bandwidth. They make your boundary about your capacity, not about the other person's worth. And they're firm without sounding cold. Picture a scene on a regular weekday in Portland or Boston. You're sitting in a cozy coffee shop, laptop open, working through emails you've been avoiding. You can feel the weight of the week. You've already helped a friend move, agreed to take on extra tasks at work, and committed to a family dinner this weekend. You're full. You know it. Then your coworker texts, "Hey, could you help out with the charity event tonight? We're short-staffed." You feel the reflex kick instantly. You think, it's a good cause. I should help. You feel guilty. You feel the pressure to be the reliable one. You start typing, "Sure, what time," even though every part of your body is begging for rest. That's the pattern that keeps stealing your evenings. Now imagine the new version of you, someone who set a limit before the week began. You look at your phone. You feel the familiar guilt rise, but instead of reacting, you lean on the rule you created. You type, "I've already hit my limit for this week." You don't add an apology or a long explanation. You don't tell them how overwhelmed you are. Just a clear, honest statement. Your coworker replies, "Totally understand. Thanks anyway." And that's it. No pressure. No argument. No exhaustion. You spend your evening unwinding instead of pouring out energy you don't have. You protected your time because you had a clear limit before the request ever arrived. Your tiny action today is simple: decide one limit for the next 7 days. It can be the number of favors you'll take on, the number of after-work commitments you'll agree to, or the number of extra projects you'll accept at your job. Pick a number. 1, 2, 0. Then stick to it. When the limit is reached, everything else gets a no. This isn't about being rigid. It's about protecting your well-being from the slow erosion of small I's. Let's slow down for a moment and let this settle into your body. Inhale gently through your nose, hold, then exhale slowly. Feel your spine relax a little. Say the microscript to yourself, I've already hit my limit for this week. Again, slower, I'm at capacity right now. Feel how those words anchor you. There's something calming about naming your limit out loud. It creates a boundary inside your body before you ever speak it to someone else. It prepares you for real-life moments where the pressure to help feels louder than your need for rest. You're going to see this limit in action soon because later in the story, someone will ask you for help at the end of a week that's already overflowing. You'll feel the old reflex to stretch yourself thinner. You'll hear the guilt trying to push you into another yes. But that's where the limit becomes your anchor, the line you don't cross, the structure that keeps you from slipping back into the version of you that always overcommits. There's another habit you need to unlearn if you want your time back. Stop rescuing people from the consequences of their poor planning. You think you're being supportive when you jump in to fix things, but what actually happens is that their urgency becomes your workload, their disorganization becomes your stress, and their crisis becomes your entire evening. If you keep doing this, you'll always feel overwhelmed because you're carrying responsibilities that don't belong to you. And here's the hard truth, people will continue leaning on you as long as you keep making their lives easier at the expense of your own. The reason this matters so much is that rescuing rewires your brain to associate other people's discomfort with your responsibility to solve it. When someone is frantic, stressed, or behind schedule, your nervous system lights up with pressure. I should help. They're counting on me. I don't want to look unkind. But most of these last-minute requests aren't true emergencies, they're the result of choices. When you rush in to save the day, you not only drain yourself, you unintentionally teach them that you're their backup plan. And when someone treats you as their safety net, they stop taking ownership. They stop planning ahead. They stop respecting your boundaries because your past behavior taught them you'll bend. When you stop rescuing, you break this pattern. You let people grow instead of enabling their avoidance. You reclaim your time and reduce the emotional turbulence in your own life. The microscript that breaks the rescuing cycle is simple, I can't step in on short notice. Another clean version is, I'm not able to help with last-minute requests. These sentences are calm and clear. They don't blame the person. They don't shame them. They don't moralize. They simply state your boundary and return responsibility to where it belongs. They stop you from being pulled into other people's chaos. Picture a moment in a real North American workplace, maybe a marketing office in San Diego or a nonprofit in Toronto. It's 4:45 p.m. on a Tuesday, and you've just finished the last task of the day. You're packing up, looking forward to going home, maybe cooking something simple, maybe just resting. Then your coworker rushes over with a panicked look and says, "Hey, I totally forgot a report is due tonight. Could you help me pull it together? You're really good at this, and I'm drowning." You feel the pressure instantly. You feel the tension in your chest, the sense of being needed, the feeling that saying no makes you a bad teammate. You hear yourself saying, "Okay, just give me 10 minutes, even though you know it won't be 10 minutes, it'll be an hour, maybe more." And there goes your evening. Again. Now imagine the new you, someone who understands that rescuing people from their own avoidance isn't kindness, it's self-erasure. You feel the familiar rush of pressure, but instead of collapsing into automatic yes, you inhale once and say the microscript, I can't step in on short notice. You say it calmly, without apology, without justification. Your coworker looks disappointed for a second, but then they nod. Okay, I'll figure it out. And they do. You pack your bag, walk out into the cool air, and head home. You didn't abandon them, you simply didn't sacrifice your evening to fix a problem you didn't create. Their stress stayed with them instead of transferring onto your shoulders. That's what boundaries do, they keep you from absorbing the emotional weight other people are supposed to carry themselves. Your tiny action today is this, identify one person in your life, work, family, or friend, who frequently comes to you with last-minute requests. Just one. And decide in advance that the next time they come to you in a state of urgency, you will not rescue them. You will use the clean line. You will let their discomfort remain theirs. This doesn't make you harsh. It makes you healthy. Right now, take a slow breath in, hold, and let it out gently. Let your jaw relax. Imagine someone texting or calling you with urgent energy, asking you to fix something immediately. Notice how your body reacts. Then say the microscript slowly to yourself, I can't step in on short notice. Say it again, softer, I'm not able to help with last-minute requests. Feel the shift in your body when you don't internalize the pressure. You're not rejecting the person. You're rejecting the pattern that drains you. You're allowing their timeline to remain theirs, instead of merging it with your own. This shift matters more than you think, because in the story we'll explore soon, someone close to you will try to draw you into their last-minute crisis the way they've done dozens of times before. They'll expect you to jump in. They'll assume you'll rearrange your plans. But for the first time, you won't. You'll feel the pressure rise, but you'll stay grounded. And that moment, where you don't rescue them, becomes the turning point that gives you back a piece of your life you didn't even realize you had lost. There's one more pattern that quietly steals your time, and it's easy to miss because it feels harmless. You let people treat your free time as if it's unassigned time. The moment someone hears you're not busy, they assume you're available. And because you've trained yourself to equate availability with obligation, you end up filling any empty space with favors, errands, emotional support, or extra work that was never yours in the first place. If you don't change this, you'll spend your life in a cycle where the only time you get to rest is when you collapse. The stakes are high. When you don't protect your free time, you lose every opportunity to recover, recenter, and rebuild yourself. Without recovery, everything else becomes harder. Your focus weakens, your patience thins, and even the things you normally enjoy start to feel like chores. The reason free time needs a boundary is simple. Your nervous system needs rest to function well, but the world around you will always find ways to fill your schedule if you don't claim that rest intentionally. When you treat your free time as optional, everyone else learns to treat it as available. And when they treat it as available, the requests keep coming. It's not that people are selfish, it's that most people ask for help based on convenience, not capacity. They see an opening, and they fill it. They assume that if you truly needed the time for yourself, you'd say so. But you often don't, because you're used to believing that protecting your free time is selfish. You think you should constantly maximize your usefulness. You think rest must be earned through exhaustion instead of built in as a requirement. When you start treating your free time as a protected part of your life, not a bonus, you shift into an identity where your well-being matters as much as your productivity. You stop letting the world claim the hours meant to restore you. The microscript that protects your free time is clear and calm. That's my time to rest, so I won't be available. Another version that feels slightly softer is, I keep that time open for myself. These sentences assert your boundary without inviting negotiation. They frame rest as a legitimate commitment, not something you need to apologize for or hide. And once you practice saying them, you start to feel something rare, permission to prioritize yourself. Now imagine a scene in a place like Denver or Atlanta. It's Saturday morning. You've finally woken up without an alarm. You're still in pajamas, sipping coffee, and thinking about going for a walk or just doing nothing for a while. Your phone buzzes. A family member texts, "Hey, since you're free today, can you help me run errands?" You feel that familiar rush, pressure mixed with guilt. You think, I had nothing planned, so I guess I should help. You feel the weight of responsibility settle on your shoulders even though none of this was your plan. You start typing, "Sure, what time?" and just like that, your morning disappears into someone else's agenda. You feel a little resentful, but you push it down. By the end of the day, you're tired in a way that rest should have prevented. Now picture the new you, the version that honors free time as a real commitment. You see the message. You feel the pull to say yes. But you pause, breathe once, and type, that's my time to rest, so I won't be available. You send it without apologizing. You don't cushion it. You don't offer an explanation. You don't say, maybe later, unless you truly mean it. Your family member replies, okay, no problem, and moves on. And you get to keep your morning. You stroll outside. You sit in silence. You let your mind wander. Maybe you clean your space slowly, without urgency. Maybe you read. Maybe you do nothing. But the important part is this: the time is yours. And once you start experiencing what it feels like to keep your free time intact, you begin to understand why your life always felt so cramped before. You were giving away the very hours designed to refill you. Your tiny action today is simple and doable. Block off one period on your calendar, 1 hour, 2 hours, an evening, anything, and label it personal time. Not empty time. Not flexible time. Personal time. Then when someone asks you for something during that block, use the microscript. Protecting even one small window teaches your system a new pattern. You matter too. Pause with me for a moment. Take a slow breath in, hold it, then release it gently. Let your shoulders loosen, your jaw unclench. Now say the microscript softly to yourself: that's my time to rest, so I won't be available. Again, slower, I keep that time open for myself. Notice how your body responds when you allow yourself to value rest. Feel the steadiness that comes from naming it. This is what taking ownership of your free time feels like: quiet, calm, and grounded. You're going to use this sentence in the upcoming story moment, because someone will assume your free time belongs to them the way it always has. They won't be malicious. They'll just be used to the old you, who gave away weekends, evenings, and energy without thinking. But this time, you'll respond differently. You'll hold your ground. And the shift will be subtle but powerful. Your life begins to feel like it's actually yours again. It's Friday evening, the exact kind you've been needing all week. You get home, drop your bag by the door, and for the first time in days, your shoulders actually start to soften. You've already decided this night is yours: no work, no favors, no last-minute rescues. Just a quiet dinner, maybe a show, maybe nothing at all. You breathe a little deeper knowing the week is finally over. But 15 minutes later, your phone lights up. It's someone close to you, family, maybe a friend, someone who has relied on you more times than you can count. The message reads, "Hey, could you come help me out? Something came up and I'm in a bind. I really need you tonight." Your chest tightens, just like it always does. That old version of you, the automatic yes, the guilt-driven yes, the overexplaining yes, starts waking up. You can feel the pressure rising. You picture their disappointment. You picture the conversation you don't want to have. You picture how easy it would be to just go help, even though you're exhausted. Your thumb is hovering over the keyboard before you realize what's happening. This is the moment that would have swallowed your whole evening a few weeks ago. But this time, something different happens. You pause. Not long, just long enough to let your mind catch up to your emotion. You hear the tools you've been practicing echo in that small space. You remember the rule about delaying your response instead of reacting to your guilt. You remember the line you practiced, the one that keeps your life from being rerouted by someone else's urgency: "Let me check what I already have on my plate, and I'll get back to you." You type it, send it, and set your phone down. You haven't said no, and you haven't said yes. You've created breathing room. For once, their urgency didn't become your crisis. A minute later, the guilt flares again. You feel it in your stomach this time, the familiar tug that tells you you're responsible for keeping everyone comfortable. You almost reach for your phone to reassure them or over-explain. But you stop yourself. You remember another line: clean, steady, I care about you, but I can't take this on right now. You say it quietly in your mind, not to send yet, but to anchor yourself. Your body softens a little. You take a slow breath in through your nose, hold, and let it out. You feel the old reflex losing its grip. 5 minutes pass, and you finally look at the message again. You think about the week you've had. The extra tasks you picked up. The long hours. The fact that this evening is the only space you had left to rest. You think about the rule you set for yourself, your limit for the week. You've already hit it. You said that earlier in the week, and tonight is the exact reason you made that rule in the first place. You know what old you would do: cave, rush out the door, and spend half the night solving a problem that wasn't yours to begin with. But now you feel the difference. The pause gave you clarity. The guilt settled. The rule held steady. Now the decision feels obvious. You pick up your phone and type, "I've hit my limit for this week, so I won't be able to come tonight." You keep your fingers still for a second, checking your body. You don't feel panicked the way you expected. You don't even feel rude. You just feel honest. You add nothing else. No justification. No apology. No life story. You send it. There's a long moment of silence where the old version of you would have spiraled, imagining all the worst reactions they might have. But then the reply comes, "Okay, I'll figure something out." No anger. No guilt trip. No drama. Just acceptance. And something inside you shifts. You realize how many years you spent preparing for reactions that never actually came. You realize that most of the pressure wasn't coming from other people, it was coming from inside you, from the belief that your no wasn't allowed. You put your phone down again. You walk into the kitchen. You breathe. And for the first time in a long time, Friday night stays yours. You didn't rescue someone from their poor planning. You didn't sacrifice your rest because someone assumed your free time meant available time. You didn't collapse into an automatic yes. You didn't overexplain. You held your boundary cleanly. You protected the only evening you had to recover. A wave of quiet relief moves through your body, and you feel something even deeper beneath it: self-respect. Not pride, not defiance, just a grounded sense that you finally acted like someone who values their own time. You settle into the couch. You eat slowly. You move through the evening without rushing. You feel the tension that's lived in your shoulders all week finally start to release. Later, you check your phone again. They've sent one more message: "Thanks anyway." No resentment. No pressure. No punishment. And in that moment, you understand the real transformation. Your life doesn't fall apart when you hold a boundary. It gets quieter, steadier, more yours. And the people around you adjust. This is the moment section 1 promised, the Friday night test where everything could have gone the old way. But it didn't. You changed the moment before it changed you. And now you get to keep the night your old habits would have handed away without a thought. What this whole lesson has really been about is learning to live from intention instead of obligation. It's the shift from reacting to everything around you to responding from a place that actually reflects your values. It's the difference between letting other people's urgency decide your schedule and choosing how you want your days to look. When you stop overcommitting, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your sense of steadiness. First, we looked at that moment where your calendar fills up with reflexive yes and how the old habit steals your week before it even begins. Then we walked through the instinct to give instant answers and saw how a simple pause changes everything by breaking the emotional spike that drives most commitments. Next, we dug into guilt, the feeling that convinces you that helping is mandatory, and you learned how to slow it down so it stops making your choices for you. After that, you practiced the clean sentences that protect your time instead of inviting negotiation, noticing how much stronger your boundaries feel when you stop overexplaining. Then you learned the power of setting limits ahead of time so you're not trying to make healthy decisions in the middle of emotional pressure. After that, we explored how rescuing others from their own last-minute cruises drains you and trains them to rely on you in ways that undermine your life. Next, you saw why protecting your free time matters, not because rest is a luxury but because it's the foundation that keeps you from burning out. Finally, you watched all of these pieces work together in a real moment, a Friday night when the old version of you would have caved, but this time you held your boundary and kept control of your evening. You didn't solve their problem. You solved yours. Here are 3 things you can do today to lock this in. Choose one message, one request, or one conversation that asks for your time and use a 10-second pause before responding so the old reflex doesn't take over. Pick one person who often brings you last-minute problems and decide you won't rescue them the next time it happens. You'll use the boundary line you practiced. Set aside one block of time on your calendar this week, an hour, an evening, anything, and protect it as personal time, even if someone asks you to give it away. If this resonated, the next lesson you'll want to watch is the one on emotional detachment, where we go deeper into how to stay steady when other people's reactions try to pull you back into old patterns. It will help you reinforce the boundary work you started here by teaching you how to protect your attention even when someone pushes back. If you want a whole library of Stoic Focus lessons on emotional control, boundaries, and relationships, this is what we do here every week. If you feel messages like this need to reach more people, hit like, tap subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.